After doing this for some time, I have arrived at the conclusion that Season 2 has the greatest amount of manufactured reality and is therefore the most controversial season. It has plenty of mysteries to solve, including how much of Bigger Balls was fake, was Spenny actually naked, what's the deal with the butchered narrative in Dance, did Spenny really fall for the old Robert De Niro hustle, and who was actually mean first. But after polling the community for suggested videos, what you really want to know about is Spenny's mom. I think most of you guys were asking me to analyze the Season 6 episode, Who Can Get Further with the Other Guy's Mom. But to make better sense out of that one, we should start with her first appearance in Rat Race. Most of the things we see happening at the beginning are real. They agree to have a race, they debate the rules, and they source rats. Jim Levisek supplies Spenny's rat. Notably, Jim was an animal wrangler in the film industry, even catching a few acting roles, including the ice cream guy in the Goosebumps episode Awesome Ants. He passed away in 2017. Kenny, on the other hand, being the frugal gentleman that he is, goes to the pet store and buys a feeder rat. Feeder rats are the rats that people buy to feed their reptiles, amphibians, or birds of prey. How do I know that? The first indicator is that they're all white. Stores will offer colored rats as pets and plain white ones as feeders. But Jim had a white one, so they can be pets too, right? Well, yes, but Jim is also an animal supplier. He has to have all kinds of rats for all kinds of purposes. If a film wanted a white one for a lab scene, he would need to have one. A better indicator that these are feeder rats is that they're in the back of the store. They don't keep the feeders up front. Generally, there's enough of a crowd that opposes feeding live rats, they keep it out of the public eye. You would have to ask for feeder rats, and the guy would go in the back and get them for you. Kenny is only back here because he wants to select one on camera to be his athlete, and they're not formally making the distinction that these are feeder rats, but they are. And of course, Kenny, taking all inspiration from classic film, names his rat Zontar after the 1967 film Zontar, the Thing from Venus. An alien comes to Earth under the guise of peace, but tries to conquer the planet. Why does Kenny get a feeder rat? Well, it probably costs less to buy a feeder rat than to rent one from Jim Levisek, or he's specifically taking a different strategy to diversify the episode. It doesn't really matter anyway. Both guys train their rats, and when Kenny comes to the realization that he will not be able to use his rat in the race, we move on to the main narrative of the episode. Kenny kidnaps Spenny's rat, Spenny takes Kenny's records as collateral, Kenny kidnaps Spenny's mother, they trade the records for the mother, and finally they race new rats. Fans often debate whether this is Spenny's real mother or not, but what never gets debated is the reality of this narrative. Never mind Spenny's mother for a second. Is this kidnapping plot real? It really seems to me with my analyst eyes that they orchestrated this escalating series of gimmicks for the purpose of arriving at a particular showdown. And what I mean by that is they knew how they wanted the competition to end, but they needed to figure out how to get there. So I would like to begin my analysis by presenting to you two distinct possibilities regarding the narrative. Either these back and forth kidnappings / hijackings are completely legit, or they are not. I'm a big fan of the simple concept of, if it doesn't make sense, it's probably not true. By examining the narrative scenes without considering the identity of Spenny's mother, I've compiled the following list of things that don't quite make sense to me and support the idea that the narrative is scripted. Number 1. What the f*** is this? How did Spenny think a siren would protect his rat? He's either going to be sitting right there, or he's not. And if he's not, anybody could take the rat regardless of the siren. It's not like the rat is locked up in something that's bolted down. Look at this thing. The paint is coming off of it, and there's a big crack in the plastic. This is not a serious home protection device. This is a plot device. Number 2, Spenny says he went to have a bowel movement.
I should have taken Sally with me when I made a bowel movement.
But he comes out with no pants, a t-shirt, and a bathrobe. What the f*** was he doing in there? Does he take off his pants every time he takes a dump? Was he about to shower? Kenny had plenty of time to take a chair upstairs and block the door, but in that time Spenny only removed his pants to take a pantsless dump before taking a shower? Was he brushing his teeth with his helicopter flying? What the f*** was going on in there? Was this actually just a scripted moment to give Kenny a window to steal the rat? Number 3. Kenny films a kidnapping video where it's obviously him doing the kidnapping. Why does he cover his face but wear the same shirt? To be comedically gratuitous? This whole thing seems like just a catalyst for escalation, to make it obvious that Kenny stole the rat, so Spenny is validated in escalating the kidnapping narrative instead of just moving on and getting a new rat, which he eventually does anyway. Number 4. This confrontation appears to follow my baseline for fake confrontations. No shouting and weird pauses to consider how to respond. Why is it so awkward and unnatural? Number 5. Why does the condition for Spenny's ultimatum force Kenny to concede the competition and not just give back Sally the rat?
You can concede this competition, you can kiss your records goodbye.
He just finished declaring that he wanted to run the race.
I am going to run this race one way or the other.
So why does he want capitulation instead of the return of his athlete? Number 6. Why does Kenny lean back on the couch and get more comfortable when hearing the alarming news that Spenny has taken control of some of his records? A normal person responding to a stressor would not get more comfortable. They would stand up, or lean forward, or get a nervous twitch in their leg, or chew their fingernails. These are all normal responses to stressors. Getting comfortable is not a normal response to a stressor. It kind of seems like he doesn't know how to convincingly react to alarming news. Number 7. Why does he just sit there afterwards? Why doesn't he call his mother to tell her to stop Spenny from leaving the house with his records?
Yeah? What do you think?
Maybe he didn't want her to stop him. Number 8. What is Spenny so afraid Kenny will do to his mother?
You're not going to touch her!
This is business.
He's obviously not going to hurt her. It kind of seems like they didn't think out the logic of this narrative when they planned it, and he's just going through the motions. Number 9. Who listens to records anymore?
You better call me soon, or else it's melting wax time. Anyways, who listens to records anymore anyways? It's ridiculous.
Spenny does.
Mama, send me down now! No! You can't get that anywhere!
Number 10. Whose cousin is he talking about? Our cousin?
What's our cousin's name in Montreal?
Corinne's cousin?
What's your cousin's name in Montreal?
Spenny's cousin?
Sammy's your cousin's name.
Kenny!
I found no evidence of anybody in Spenny's family, either on his father's side or his mother's side, named Sammy or Sam or Samuel or Samantha. The term cousin is a bit ambiguous in Spenny's extended family. This little girl claims she is Spenny's cousin.
I'm Spencer's cousin.
But she is the daughter of Jonathan Gross. Jonathan Gross is one of Uncle Jules' children, and Uncle Jules is one of Spenny's mother's brothers, which would make Jonathan and Spenny cousins, and this little girl would be Spenny's first cousin once removed. They just kind of throw the blanket term cousin on anyone related in a cousinly way. However, just because I couldn't find anyone named Sammy doesn't mean he, she, they doesn't exist. But have the guys ever stiff-armed untrue family concepts within an episode for the sake of reinforcing a narrative? Yes, regularly.
Mother's maiden name is Friedman.
Spenny's mother's maiden name is not Friedman. It is Gross. And that's not a lowbrow pun. Her maiden name is Gross, Gross. Her brother is Jules Gross. Some of her nephews are Jonathan Gross and Lowell Gross. Sidebar, this is a great example of a reshoot.
Mother's maiden name is Friedman.
They filmed Kenny canceling Spenny's phone using his mother's maiden name Gross, then realized it may not be the best idea to announce Spenny's mother's maiden name on national television, considering anybody could cancel Spenny's phone with that information, so they reshot the scene with Kenny using a fake name just so the audience can understand how he canceled Spenny's phone. Back to the untrue family concepts.
This is usually for married people. Are you married?
No.
This competition was filmed in summer of 2008. He was married in 2004, separated in 2007, and not divorced until sometime after 2008. The internet is a bit inconclusive about the divorce, but I feel confident saying the divorce was filed in 2008 and finalized around 2011. So he certainly was married when the rabbi asked him.
And it's dangerous, and I want to have children one day.
One day? This was filmed in summer of 2006. His first 2 children were born in 2006. Given the growth of the plants at the time, I estimate this to be about June, maybe July 2006. So if they weren't already born at the time, she was definitely at least 3 months pregnant, which would be obvious, especially since she was pregnant with twins. All this to say, he had kids on the way, so I want to have kids someday was an untrue family concept used to amplify the potential consequences of what was about to happen. So the likelihood that cousin Sammy had been conjured up simply for validating and pushing the narrative forward is entirely possible. There isn't exactly a smoking gun to prove anything about this narrative one way or the other. There's no frame to freeze on. There's no wet paw trail, no darkened windows, no garbage. Because there are a series of things that don't quite make sense, and because there is the confirmed reality that things on this show are sometimes staged.
And the network in that particular episode said, Spenny's got to win.
There is one particular moment in the narrative that I really want to draw your attention to, because it is the one piece of concrete evidence that something in this episode was scripted.
Tell me, does he have any girlfriends? I would have thought he would have had a serious girlfriend by this time.
I just don't really know how interested in women he is. I really haven't seen him with a girl for a very long time.
He had a wife at this exact time. This was filmed in summer 2005, and he married the year before in 2004. The only reason for this exchange to happen the way it does is if it's scripted. Regardless of who this woman's identity is, whether she's an imposter or the real thing, Spenny's mother would know he was married. So the only reason for Spenny's mother, real or imposter, to question his relationship status is if they scripted it otherwise. Well, maybe she didn't know he was married. Like, really? You think Spenny's mother didn't know he was married? The lines exchanged in the van were cultivated a certain way to convince the audience of this woman's identity. In a time when we knew next to nothing about his personal life, she articulates intimate personal details about Spenny's life and childhood in an effort to convince the audience that this person is his mother, and we will continue to believe the narrative. All this just to say, I fully believe that this narrative is completely manufactured. All of these things are just plot devices to escalate to the next plot device. The alarm gives the signal for Spenny to come rushing out of the bathroom. The strange clothing coordination creates the illusion of haste. The video is an invitation for retaliation. Retaliation cues the escalating back and forth spy versus spy-esque narrative. That's why Zoffi didn't try to stop Spenny. That's why Spenny's mother pretended to be concerned about his relationship status. That's why Jim was so confident he would get his rat back.
I'm confident that I will get Sally back.
Because she was never in any danger and he is acting here. Remember, he's acted before. The mother kidnapping is the climax of the narrative, and everything before that is a plot device to get there. So let's get to the part about Spenny's mother. If the narrative is fake, would you even need Spenny's real mother to take part in it? No. You wouldn't get her real reactions anyway because the conflict is fake. So you could just get an actor. In fact, you'd likely be better off with an actor. Could she have taken part in it anyway, just for the fun of it, to be involved and take an interest in her son's career? Yes. So the question everyone wants answered is that Spenny's mother? No, it isn't. The Spamerica channel has previously indicated that IMDb lists Peggy Mann as Spenny's mom, while also declaring that IMDb can be edited by anyone on the internet, so it doesn't make the best reference material. He then compared the woman in the episode with a known sample of Peggy Mann's work, and concluded, yeah, one kind of sounds like the other, and yeah, one kind of looks like the other, so it's probably her. There's not a lot I can add to that, but I'm going to try. So let's go through the motions and figure this out. Is this person and this person the same person? Let's talk about her physical appearance. Obviously, we don't see her face, but we do see her ears and her shoulders. In this shot of the exchange, we can see her unblurred ear. Ears continue to grow through our lifetime, but their shape remains the same. In certain cases, police investigators have been able to use photos of ears like fingerprints to identify a culprit. I screenshot some stills of Peggy from the film Dr. Cabby, and while the angles aren't the best, there is no major inconsistency that would be reason for me to immediately dismiss the possibility that this person is Peggy. Now you're expecting me to compare her ear to photos of Spenny's mom, right? There are photos of her available on the internet both as a young woman and in her senior years. However, Spenny's mom liked two things. She liked hats, and she liked to wear her hair over her ears. So I can't make a qualitative assessment between this person and the mother of this person. That being said, I have to show respect when it's due. I'm not going to include photos of Spenny's mom because, as I will declare momentarily in a hypothetical conversation with the fan base, she didn't want to have anything to do with the show. So what else? The shoulder slump between this person and Peggy is quite similar. Again, I cannot prove they are different people. Also again, I don't have an example of Spenny's mother standing to examine the shoulder slump. The last thing I have to analyze are the voices. There are 3 known audio clips of Spenny's mother, from Chef, Money, and On the Oliver George Show. I've transcribed them along with the dialogue from The Woman in Rat Race and Peggy's dialogue in the Dr. Cabby film. I searched for words that are said by Spenny's mother, Peggy, and our mystery woman. Words that are said by both Spenny's mother from her various audio selections and The Woman in Rat Race are Spencer, this, time, and just, okay, yeah, sure.
Spencer, 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 this. Okay. Sure.
So as I'm editing this video, I want to show you a few things. These are actually all the words that were said between Corinne Rice and The Woman in Rat Race. But when you take a word like "oh" and you isolate it, it doesn't even sound like the word "oh" anymore. It just sounds like, this is going to sound stupid, but it just sounds like a sound. It just sounds like And so I can't reliably compare the O's, but I can compare Spencer. I can compare time, because they make, like, within the word there are different sounds, so it makes a good comparison. It's hard to describe. Like, I'm just ad-libbing this. I don't have a script in front of me, damn it. So the O, that's I'm. Like, they don't make great comparisons, so I just stuck with the words that make great comparisons. When I look at the audio files of Spenny's mother and Peggy, the first 3 are always Spenny's mother, and the second 3 are always Peggy. I notice that Peggy's cadence is slower when she talks, and that's the case for almost every word. So every word, Spenny's mother says it quicker. When Peggy says it, it takes longer. So what I'm trying to say is, like, this is another piece of evidence that I found just while I'm editing. I don't think Spenny's mother, Corinne Rice, is the person that we see in Rat Race. Does that sound like the same person? Let's listen to words said by Peggy in Dr. Cabby and The Woman in Rat Race. Said for any. And something interesting about those clips is that the ones with Peggy are about the same length and the same cadence as the one with the mother from Rat Race. To me, this woman sounds more like Peggy than Spenny's mother. All things set aside, we still don't have a smoking gun here. ear analysis, posture analysis, voice analysis. I'm confident in saying that's not Spenny's mother, but it's all relatively speculative. Like, none of this would hold up in a court. So here's something else to consider. IMDb does credit Peggy Mann as playing Spenny's mom in this episode, but IMDb shouldn't be taken too seriously as a citable source because anybody can change the information presented there. Anybody could have listed Peggy as Spenny's mom, but the closing credits that are controlled by Kenny, as indicated by Kenny himself on almost every commentary, also list Peggy as a special thanks on the episode. Kenny himself indicates that Peggy Mann was a part of this episode, and this was her part, to play Spenny's mom. Well, maybe they shot the parts with Spenny's real mom and then recreated them with Peggy. Why? Since the narrative is scripted, according to me, Spenny's mom's parts are also scripted. Why would they film Spenny's mom acting and then film an actor recreating Spenny's mom's acting? Like, the whole point of recreating a scene would be to imitate Spenny's mother's real reactions, but she would have been acting anyway because, according to me, the whole narrative was scripted. So why fake Spenny's mother? Why not get her to join the episode and appear on television? Why the fuck would she want to?
Goldstein says I have to get laid, so here I go. I wonder if Spencer's mother's home. Hi, Mrs. Rice. It's Kenny. Lipstick in the wash. Your mother's lipstick. Concubine, definition, Spencer's mother.
That's just season 1. She's been the butt of the joke since the show started.
I don't think you realize, like, you've alienated yourself within my family, and you don't, like, maybe you don't care.
What, is she gonna present herself to us deranged lunatics? Here I am. All the promiscuity jokes are about me. My son is David Schwimmer with Down syndrome. Hi everybody. Hi Canada. She's not going to do that. She's not going to parade herself in front of the nation. She wanted no part in this because of the ongoing defamation of her character on Kenny's part. So this is what I believe. During the beginning stages of planning this episode, they discovered what a capybara was, and they scripted a narrative that would end with Kenny racing a capybara against Spenny's rat. This is scripted, this is acting, this is Spenny being complicit with all of it. Which is really the measure of fake on this show. Is Spenny in on it? This time, yes. Yes, he was in on it, which makes it fake. They started the episode with the standard expert practice skit, which are all real-ish, but even while selecting Sally the rat, Spenny knew she was just going to be kidnapped, which would mean that the training he puts her through is just going through the motions that we would expect him to for this competition. Kenny just waited for his rat to be giving the correct behavior on camera so he could recite his lines, and in between, he did his skits. After that, the episode shifts into the scripted narrative, which included an actor playing the part of Spenny's mother, and culminating in the desired showdown of capybara versus rat. I don't think it's unreasonable to say that this episode is 100% fake. Now, the following are little tidbits that I glossed over to make my point. The kidnapping video. This is filmed upstairs in the coach house. The air conditioner here sticks out the back of the building here, which would put the mezzanine on camera left, which it is. Of course, I could go on and on about the alignment of the natural light and the coordination of the gooch to taint ratio, but it's the coach house. Just trust me, bro. Kenny's records. You can see 3 of Kenny's records. Hitler's Inferno, Volume 2, is a collection of Hitler's speeches and military marching songs. Negro Prison Songs is a collection of work songs recorded in the 1940s at the Mississippi State Penitentiary. These songs are described as reflecting the parallels between the oppressive prison system and the experiences of enslaved work groups on plantations. Finally, Jim Jones' Christian Crusades is a collection of hymns played on the organ and speeches by Jim Jones. No rats were harmed. They say no rats were harmed, but we see Kenny just letting his rat go. If he did let it go, it was surely eaten by something within 24 hours. Like, the feeder rats don't have the, let's say, survival intuition that a wild animal would have. Some guy on Reddit says Marianne Nova was his high school principal, Since then, she started a business called Nova's Ark, where she specializes in animal encounters for people with disabilities. And the humiliation. Now, I don't normally talk about the humiliations. I'm saving them up for some kind of humiliation special. But in this one, Kenny sticks Sean the rat down his boxer briefs. We see Sean's tail poking out here, but when Kenny completes his humiliation and drops his drawers, we see a long string hanging down from his groin area. We also see Sean in his underwear at the same time. So what is that? People have speculated that it's a fake tail and he didn't really put Sean in his underwear. I don't think that's true. Like, we see him go in and we see him move around and we see his marbled tail. I think they intentionally positioned Sean in different poses to poke his tail out and to hang his arm out like he's driving a Peterbilt down the 401. I think this is more likely a drawstring from some kind of wiener protection device. Like, rat bites are no joke. And I think Kenny was protecting himself in the unlikely but possible scenario where Sean bites his wiener.
Did it bit me? No, it didn't. No, bit you.
So who won this competition? Well, the community is kind of stuck on two issues. Was the capybara a rat? And does Spenny putting his rat back on the track count as interference? Capybaras are rodents, but not rats. Rats are a separate rodent subfamily, which are small and terrestrial with long tails and triangular faces, whereas capybaras are large with a semi-aquatic lifestyle, webbed feet, and a blunt snout. What makes a capybara a rodent is its front teeth. They're continuously growing, which necessitates constant gnawing on various plants to wear them down. So no, this is not a rat by definition, which would disqualify Kenny from the race. However, that doesn't mean Spenny wins by default. There is a rule disallowing impediment and interference with rat, which can be interpreted to mean no obstructing rat and or no assisting rat. My rat, your rat. Now, there are a plethora of semantics which I could apply for the purpose of manipulating this rule, whereby the winner is usually Spenny. Some of which include, number 1, the rule only applies to Kenny.
You can't impede or interfere with rat.
You can't.
You can't impede or interfere with rat.
Spenny declares that this rule applies to you, as in Kenny, and Kenny only. Kenny cannot impede or interfere with rat. Since Spenny interfered with rat, there is no disqualification and Spenny wins. Number 2, let's get real and say it applies to both guys. Implicitly, the rule was meant to cover rats on the track. Since Spenny's rat left the track, it is no longer bound to the rule. Spenny redirected his rat to the starting line, where it became bound to the rule again, and crossed the finish line first, therefore Spenny wins. Number 3, implicitly again, the rule was meant to stop guys from either preventing the other guy's rat from traveling down the track, or pushing their own rat down the track. Neither guy put down obstacles, and neither guy pushed his rat to the finish line. Therefore, Spenny wins. Number 4. After Spenny puts his rat down, he uses his hands to create obstacles to force his rat to run toward the finish line, which would be impediment. However, his hands serve the same purpose as putting a piece of wood across the track to prevent the animals from leaving the start line, which they should have done to begin with. So I don't think it disqualifies Spenny. Spenny wins. Number 5, the obvious. Spenny interfered, therefore Spenny loses, so it's a double disqualification and it should have ended in a double humiliation. But yeah, that's certainly another possibility. Personally, I feel as though Spenny won. I don't have a problem with him resetting his athlete at the beginning of the race. He plopped his rat down at the start line, he did the same job that a piece of wood could have done, and his rat crossed the finish line on his own. The final thing I want to point out is how the race could be staged as well. It's a rat race. It's not being judged by an impartial third party. They could have just run the animals over and over until Spenny's rat won. Again, I have no evidence to say they did this, but given everything else, it's certainly possible. So maybe Spenny was always going to be the winner of the rat race. Maybe they reshot the race until Spenny won. This was the take where Spenny's rat crossed the finish line first, so they said, good enough, let's use it. As fake as it was to get here, I don't have a problem declaring Spenny the winner of this competition. What is the tenet for this episode? Well, there isn't one. How can I extract a quintessential trait of Kenny versus Spenny from a fake episode? Tenets are very real parts of the show. Oh, okay. Well, that's it then. Fake. Faking things is a very real part of the show. Not everything on the show is fake, but at this point I'm very comfortable declaring that the guys don't have a problem faking things to fill in the gaps. Nuh-uh, it's all real. No, it's not. I've got 74 more of these to go, and I've barely scratched the surface. The rating. How do I even rate this? The narrative? Scripted. Interactions? Fake. Reactions? Fake. Characters? Actors. Rewatchability? Lame. For the first time, I'm giving an episode a 0. This one stinks. And now, this. A few people missed this, so let's do it. Okay, the next one's going to be big as balls. So what do you think? Was the narrative fake? Was that Peggy, or was that Spenny's real mother? Did Spenny win the race? Does this episode deserve better than a 0? Let me know what you think in the comments. As always, thanks for watching, thanks for waiting, like and subscribe to help the channel, and I'll see you on the next one.